Hi everyone. Listen the lamentation of Lawino after her husband back in his homeland. Lawino lament to her husband against the issue of Western culture. Lawino is an African woman who does not know letter R. I mean, she is illiterate. Lawino lament to her husband about the abusive language or the behavior of her husband after got a Western education. But before when to start, Lawino and Ocol were lived peaceful and not harsh. Listen this poem or the lamentation of Lawino. Husband, now you despise me, now you treat me with spite, and I say I have inherited the stupidity of my auntie, son of the chief. Now you compare me with a rubbish in the rubbish pit. You say you no longer want me because I'm like the things left behind in the deserted homestead. You insult me, you laugh at me, you say I do not know the letter I because I have not been to school and I have not been baptized. You compare with me a little dog, a puppy. My friend, age mate of my blood, take care of your tongue. Be careful what your lips say. First take a deep look, blazer. You are now a man. You are not a dead fruit. To behave like a child does not befit you. Listen, Ocol. You are the son of the chief. Leave foolish behavior to little children. It is not right that you should be laughed at in a song. Songs about you should be songs of praise. Stop despising me as if you were a little foolish man. Stop treating me like a sortless ash. Become barren of insult and stupidity. Who has ever uprooted the pumpkins? That is stanza 1. In the poem, My Husband's Tongue is Bitter. The one who read this poem is teacher Kaligo Dotto Njige, the man of literature and the young African writer. Listen again the lamentation of Lawino in stanza 2. In a poem, My Husband's Tongue is Bitter. Lawino still lament to her husband against the Western culture. That's why the main themes in this poem is cultural interference between African culture and the Western culture. In the first stanza, we see a theme of religion or Christianity. Ocol baptized after went to study in Europe. And also we see a theme of ignorance. Example, Ocol is an ignorant person because he failed to live peaceful with his wife. That's why he abused about African culture while he is an African man. In stanza 2, my classmen, I cry, listen to my voice. The insults of my man are painful beyond bearing. My husband abused me together with my parents. He says terrible things about my mother, and I'm so ashamed. He abused me in English and he's so arrogant. He says I'm rubbish. He no longer wants me. In cruel jokes he laughs at me. He says I'm primitive because I cannot play the guitar. He says my eyes are dead and I cannot read. And he says ears are blocked and cannot hear a single foreign word. That I cannot count the corns. He says I'm like a sheep, the foolish. Ocol treat me as if I'm no longer a person. He says I'm still like the Ojuk instead that sit on the bare pot. My husband treat me roughly. The insults words cut more painful than sticks. He says my mother is witch, that my classmates are fools because they eat rats. He says we are all kafirs We do not know the ways of God. We sit in deep darkness and do not know the gospel. He says, my mother hides her charms in her necklace, and that we all are so colors. My husband's tongue is bitter like the roots of Lawino. It is hot like the penis of the bees, like the sting of the calang. Ocol's tongue is fierce like the arrows of scorpion, deadly like the spear of the buffalo hornet. It is ferocious like the poison of barren woman, and corrosive like the juice of the gold. This second stanza, also we see Lawino still lament to her husband against the African culture. That's why we see awareness, a theme of awareness. Lawino is aware about her culture. And also we get a theme of African identity. Example, Lawino, she's aware about identity. That's why we see Lawino tell us about all the behavior of her husband who betrayed his culture. That's why, dear listeners, we are learning in this poem, My Husband's Tongue is Bitter, so as to get knowledge on how you can live with your people in peace way, and not to harass or to abuse your people because you are educated one. Use your education to live with your people, your parents in a peaceful way and not in another way. Let us look at the last stanza 3. My husband pours scorpion on black people. He behaves like a pen that it is his own eggs, a hen that should be imprisoned under a basket. His eyes grow large, deep black eyes. Ocol's eyes resembles those of the Nile perch. He becomes fence like loneliness of caps. He begins to behave like a mad hyena. He says black people are primitive and their ways are utterly harmful. Their dances are mortal sins. They are ignorant, poor, and diseased. Ocol says he is a modern man, a progressive and civilized man. He says he has lived extensively and widely, and he cannot no longer live with a thing like me, who cannot distinguish between a good and bad. He says I'm just a village woman. I'm the old type and no longer attractive. He says I'm blocked his progress. My head, he says, is as big as that of an elephant, but his only bones. There is no brain in it. He says I'm only wasting his time. That is the end of stanza 3 in a poem, My Husband's Tongue is Bitter. This is the first poem. My Husband's Tongue is Bitter is the first poem in poetry song of Lawino. We see how Lawino lament or tell us the behavior of a husband who got a Western education and decided to betray his culture. Apart from the themes which we get in this poem, we see Okot P'bitek show us different poetic devices, like sense devices. Number 1 is simile. We see at the last stanza, we see my head, he says, is as big as that of an elephant. We see this is a kind of simile. Lawino compared with an elephant. Her head is big as that of an elephant. That is a simile. Compared Lawino, compared with an elephant. This we call a simile. Apart from simile, also we get another sense devices, which is a symbolism. Symbolism. Example, the word tongue stands for language. Apart from, also we see another sense devices, auditory devices, imageal. When you read this poem, you create a mental picture, especially the visual image. Example, eyes, deep black eyes. You see maybe the eye of someone when you create in your mind. And also, he says, I'm just a village woman, and so on. Okay, apart from the sense devices, the one of poetic devices, also there is the sound devices, which is portrayed by Okot P'bitek. Example, the rhyme. The rhyme which is used in this poem, it is irregular. It is irregular rhyme because the end sound in each verses is dissimilar. the similar and not similar. And apart from rhyme, also the rhythm also it is irregular. Example, in a first verse, first stanza, verse 1, husband, now you despise me. Husband, this is the strong syllable. Now the weak, you despise me. You despise me. Now you despise me. This is the weak syllable. Strong, weak. That we call it is irregular rhythm. Also, there is alteration, the one of sound devices. Example, a consonant sound H in a first stanza with a rubbish H. That we call is a consonance and not alteration. But alteration revealed in the first stanza, a consonant sound R with a rubbish, the consonant sound R repeated at the beginning of the poems. Also, there is an anaphora in the first stanza. Example, you insult me, you laugh at me, you say I don't know the letter R. The word you repeated at the beginning of each verses, that is called is anaphora. Apart from the sound devices, also there is the structure devices. Example, the number of stanzas in this poem, the last 3 stanzas, but also there are main verses in this poem. Also, there is a repetition of words. Example, the word husband, the pronoun he, the word you, repeated in a poem. Apart from repetition of words, we see another structural devices like a punctuation mark, a full stop, and a comma. Also, we see, apart from this poem, the title of the poem is a modern poem because the number of verses in each stanza are equal. That we call it a modern poems. The person of this poem is Lawino, who laments about a husband who betrayed his culture and also betrayed his wife Lawino. That's why the persona is Lawino, and the tone of Lawino is very sad, because her husband betrayed, and also her husband betrayed his culture and adopted a Western culture. That is very sad. And the mood, you as the leader, how can you feel? Example, myself, I feel sympathetic toward the Lawino, who laments about her husband who betrayed his culture. And also, we get themes in this poem. Example, religion, Christianity, ignorance, and so on. And also, we get messages. We should praise our culture. We should proud our culture. We should respect our culture. Abusive language is not good to the lovers. And also the conflict should be solved. This poem is still relevant to our society because there are men who insult their wives, and also there are women who have stand to a husband and struggle for their right. Thank you for listening to me. My name is teacher Kaligo Dotto Njige, the man of literature and the young African writer from Shinyanga, Tanzania. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you.